Welcome, everyone. It's Friday. And you know what that means? It means we're going into the weekend and we need a reminder. So that when we go through the weekend, we remember ourselves. That's what it means. And today, we are speaking of unwittingly yet deliberate. Now, we're going to explain. Unwittingly, we live by way of principle. We live by way of law unwittingly, meaning we don't know that that's what we live by, but we're living by it. We don't know why we live by it, but we are living by it. We don't even know what it is that we're living by, but we are living by it unwittingly. You know, you don't know. Yet, it is deliberate. It is our every action is a deliberate action. To be deliberate means you thought about this thing and thus you did it. And that is by way of principle. We can't not be deliberate. But because we do not know that we already are deliberate, unwittingly we think we are perhaps random. But we are not random. We are not coincidental. But we live by way of principle all day, every day. So whether your mood is a good one, a bad one, or an indifferent one, we live according to our moods. And here's the thing. The mood does not rule, nor can it rule us. But if you pay attention to what kind of mood you are in, if you observe your mood, you will know exactly how you are going to behave. That is by principle. But unwittingly, not only do we not recognize our moods, but we think our moods are the be all and end all. Meaning, we think our moods are somehow outside of our control or outside of our power. And that is clearly not the case. The mood is there to tell you who you are and what you are doing. I was up really early this morning. Around 1 o'clock, I was up. And I read something. It was a different experience that happened to me. Fan base, I'll tell you guys when I'm off air because I can speak more freely on fan base than I can on other platforms. But anyhow, it reminded me that we always live by way of principle. And when we do not understand, when we do not comprehend, well, that's when the confusion sets in, frustration, all of those things. Because we don't comprehend, because we don't understand. Some people say, you don't need a coach. You don't need anybody to teach you anything. Just read Neville. There's absolutely nothing wrong with reading Neville. Nothing. You know how many times I've read Neville? Too many to count. Too many times to count. But it is what Neville implies. That is why. But what we do unwittingly with Neville is to put him on, dare I say, a pedestal. Hmm. Neville wanted one thing, and that was for people to trust their own self, their own intuition, to know that they can do and they can be anyone. So sometimes it's not that one needs a coach or does not need a coach. That's not it. Sometimes hearing something in another way can also be very helpful. So that's why every day I teach you to recognize the principles, see that they're everywhere, and you anchor yourself in them. And I'm not telling it to you because it's my opinion. I'm telling it to you because we observe those principles every day and we see them every day, but we don't. So in order to get our attention, people like Neville, well, they've come along and they're saying, hey, this is what's happening. And they had to meet people where they were, right? Whatever you were going through at the time, if you are aware of the principles, you will realize that you are free. That's what I want you to recognize. Unwittingly, we live by the principles. Every time you stop and you ask yourself, why does this always happen to me? The next time you say that to yourself, catch yourself. Why? Because that is the evidence of a pattern that you've been living for quite some time. And you always knew, but you just never comprehended, you never understood. So when you say to yourself, why is this always happening to me? Why do I make the same choice? Why can't I change? You have just identified the habit that you do. And when you recognize what you are doing, that is when you can change it. You see, we say it all the time. When you see that you have a problem, you can fix it. But if you don't see that you have a problem, how are you going to? Because in your eyes, there's nothing quote unquote wrong. So how do you fix it? Quote unquote, if there is nothing wrong, because you can't see it. But you do see it. This is what I want you to recognize. You do see it. And how do you know that you've seen it? You see, unwittingly, we say, why does this keep happening to me? But when you understand, which means when you grasp the meaning of what you are looking at, a light goes on for you. Indeed. And that's what I'm saying. It's not that you don't see it, it's just that you don't comprehend what you see, right? But today is a day of comprehension. You and I already live by way of principles. You and I are always manifesting. Remember, manifestation is not some woo-woo magical thing that only a select people can do. Manifestation is the second principle of creation, which is correspondence. As within, so without. As above, so below. One must reap what they have sown. There's no magic there. And here's the thing, unwittingly, we know that we manifest. Well, how do we know? Why can't I see a change in my world? That's what we ask ourselves. Well, I want to change this, but I don't know how. Unwittingly, we know that we are meant to change. We know we have the power to change. Unwittingly, we know these things, and they are continually brought to our attention. What brings it to your attention? When you notice what you're doing. You thought it was somebody to come along and tell you? Listen, that's why that scripture is so cool. He says, you're looking at the speck of dust in my eye, yet you can't see the plank in your own. Unwittingly, we say to ourselves, I can't do this. I'm hoping for the best. See, that's what we do unwittingly, but it is always by law. Always. So today, this reminder for us is to observe the self. And I know some would say, ain't nobody got time for that. What do you mean, observe myself? These bills aren't going to pay themselves. I got to watch my money. No. Watch you. When you begin to watch you, right, you will recognize what type of mood you are in. And when you recognize the mood that you're in, you can predict what your behavior will be. If I asked you right now to take a pulse of what's going on in the world, many people would say to me the only word that we all now know. Listen, and we always knew they were there. We always knew that tariffs existed. But look at what's happening. All anybody can talk about is tariff this, tariff that. Every time somebody comes into the store, and it happens at work as well. Yeah, but what if we can't get the parts that need replacing? What if we can't get them in Canada? Will that affect our claim? Will that affect our deductible, what we pay? Like, everybody on the planet is singularly focused. I shouldn't make such a general statement because there's some in the Amazon who know not. There's some in Papua New Guinea who know not because they don't live like the rest of the world. Right? This is what it is. But everybody knows at some point. The majority of people know, and we are all focused on one thing. And as I mentioned, it's not because we were unaware that tariffs existed. We always knew. Growing up on an island, you know about tariffs because you got to import most everything. And then, we try to get around having to pay that import fee. Tariffs. So unwittingly, we paid tariffs and we didn't care. Unwittingly. But the moment it was brought into our attention, we started to do what? Grasp how it would affect us. The price of fuel, the price of food, the price of materials, you name it. Now we can see how it affects us. But unwittingly, we always knew they were there. The principle is exactly the same. We know that it is there, but unwittingly, we don't grasp it. It's as simple as that. So this is why, because people say, well, I got to fix these problems in my life. I don't even know where to start. You don't start by digging for the problem. You allow the problem to emerge. The problem will emerge in this fashion. Angela, how you know it's going to emerge like that? Anytime you catch yourself saying, why me? Why does this keep happening to me? Why can't I seem to break free of it? That is your acknowledgement as to what you quote unquote should work on. And that's the beauty of the principles. It never sends you on a wild goose chase. It doesn't need to. It doesn't have to send you on a wild goose chase. It says, here's where you start. You're going to see that thing over and over again. And the moment you acknowledge that you've seen it, now you know what the problem is. So now that you know what the problem is, now you also know the solution. What is the solution? The solution is to first acknowledge where you are. You're going to say it, but we don't truly listen to ourselves. But it will tell it to you, man, why I always keep doing this? Why is it that when I go somewhere, people treat me the same way? They don't know me. They don't know where I was last time, but why are they treating me the same way? Why do I always come into the midst of a particular problem, like every time? What is that? Oh my God, the universe is trying to teach me something. Oh my God, the universe is punishing me. See what we do? Unwittingly, but if you catch it, perhaps I should say if. I should take that out. When you see it, now you begin to know what you are capable of. Now, when you see what you're capable of, if you know the principles, you will know that you are successful. You're successful. The principles make you successful. And it is our lack of understanding. It's our lack of understanding that makes us believe we have to struggle, we have to fight, we have to claw our way through just to get by, right? But that is not the case. And you would know that it is not the case because the moment you see the problem, you say, oh my God, I can see the problem. I can see why I was stuck. I can see it. And you start to get excited because you can see it. And now that you can see it, what else do you know? You know that because you live by way of law, you will always be successful. So if you want to change, well, you will be successful at your change. Not because I say so, but because the law dictates it. That's why. And when you remember that part, do you think you will ever have to say, do you think you'll have to say, well, if I have no expectations, I can't be disappointed? Shit. That's got to be the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. What do you mean if you have no expectations, you can't get hurt? Are you mad? Expectation is a natural effect that occurs in us when we desire change. So how can you tell yourself, well, if I have no expectations, I can't be hurt by things and people. I'm just simply gonna, you know, expect the worst, but I'll hope for the best. And when we say those things to ourselves, you'll know what you're doing. You'll know that as within, so without. And you'll say, wait a minute, no, 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 that's not the harvest I want to bring in. That's not the seeds I want to plant. There's no way I'm bringing that into my life. No, no, let me pause. Let me pause and examine my mood. Because every man acts according to his mood. Every man. How do I get a whistle in there? That's not even an F or an S, but you know what? I digress. This gap is something else. But understand what I'm saying to you today. Unwittingly, we live by law, by principle. Unwittingly, which means we don't know we're doing it. Yet, we are deliberate every single time because of the principles. We are deliberate. We're always deliberate. How can I be so sure that we are always deliberate? Because when you say, I don't like that. That's what we say. I don't like that. Oh, that's very deliberate. You've pointed out deliberately what you don't like. Now use the same. No, I got to say it like the young people. Keep that same energy. Keep that same energy. So that when you recognize what you're doing, keep that same energy. You say, oh my God. Why, Lord? Why? That's what we do. But deliberately. How do you know? How does one deliberately know what to do? How do we know that? When you make a decision based on what? By deliberately choosing something. Whether you know that you're being deliberate or not. But keep the same energy. Which means unwittingly, you said, you know what? I want more of that. You said deliberately, give me some more. Give me some more. That's what you said. That's deliberate. But it is unwittingly deliberate. Meaning you don't know that you're being deliberate and you don't know that you live life deliberately. When you make a choice, you have become deliberate. You've become intentional. When my grandfather explained that to me a long time ago, deliberately, he always used to say that was willful and deliberate. It is willful and deliberate, meaning you used your willpower and you said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. And you did it. Now, when you want to bring about a change in your life, you do the exact same thing. You identify the problem. Well, one must see where they are. And once you've identified the problem, and you say to yourself, well, that was nice while it lasted, but girl's got to do something new. And what's that new thing? Well, then you name it. Once you name it, now you've been deliberate. And being deliberate, being deliberate has its perks. Knowingly being deliberate has its perks. When you know what you want to become, who you want to become, what do? Naturally, you get excited. Naturally. And when you get excited, you and I naturally like to revisit what made us feel good. Think about it. We do it all the time, unwittingly. You know, when you have a problem and you say, oh my God, I got nobody to talk to about this. I got to go find somebody to talk to about this problem. Unwittingly, what do? Constantly go back to the sensations that we do not like. And because it's like we go back to those emotions and those memories naturally, unwittingly, but always by law. So unwittingly, we reminisce. And I like saying this word. It doesn't fit in here, but I like saying it all the time. When we ruminate and pontificate on the things of the past, we activate the law deliberately. Of course we do. This thing is happening in your world. And you tell a friend. Next thing you know, you're telling 3, 4 friends. You see how we like to stay in the feeling that we have? Naturally, unwittingly. So then the way to change is exactly the same way by which you already live. Step 1, identify your problem. Angela, you say this to me every day, but my problem is depression, and depression is real. And I don't know why you belittle depression. I will never belittle your experience of depression. But what I will tell you is that depression has now become your habit. Why? Because every time we reminisce and we commiserate over the same problem, you do the same thing in the same way every time, you will continually do the same thing the same way every time. Again, another way to recognize it is to call it muscle memory. How did the muscle remember? Because you trained it to remember by doing the same thing the same way every time. Yeah, but Angela, I got to take these meds just to get my brain to chemically respond. Your brain will only respond by way of the habit that you do already, because it mirrors the principle of correspondence, as within, so without. So this is why when you are in the throes of depression, you can't open up the window, you don't bathe, you don't brush your teeth, you do nothing. Because those are the behaviors that accompany depression. Every cause has its effect, and every effect its cause. But if I now say to you, You stay in your depressive state because every time you reminisce, now that's what we do unwittingly. But now let's be deliberate. If you stay in a problem by constantly reminiscing, well, then, how do you get out of it? By finding another thought, another mood, and doing that deliberately. The way in is the way out because it is our nature. It is what we do by way of law. So you know that saying we always say, misery loves company? As within, so without is the principle it is mirroring for you. Misery loves company. As within yourself, so must you experience on the outside. That is why misery loves company. It loves its own company. Everything loves its own company. So if you feel good, you will encounter situations that will continually make you feel good. Because as within, so without. That is principle. And we live by way of it. So if you and I can successfully ruminate and reminisce about the past, we now can also do what? Imagine, because that's all we ever do. When we look at the worst case scenario, well, it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened at all. But we are sitting here imagining the worst case scenario. Where are we doing it? Where? Just my imagination. That's where we're doing it. So if you can do it there on that side, well, come over to this side and do the exact same thing, but in the direction you want to go in. But remember this, muscle memory takes time to develop, does it not? So if you say to me, yeah, well, I've been trying to be positive, I've been trying to think better thoughts, I've been trying to be happy. Nobody's asking you to try to be happy. I am asking you to imagine a different outcome. Because you are already imagining one type of outcome, you can use your mental faculties to imagine another outcome. Because that is how we live, by way of law, by way of principle, we do it. Unwittingly, we live by it. But today is the day of freedom, you understand? When you begin to see what you are doing, you can leap for joy. Why is that? Because you now know. Wait a minute, as within, so without. All I'm doing is developing muscle memory. Yes, you are. Every time you imagine. The more you imagine that thing, and the more you feel the sensation of the thing you imagine, the more you feel it, the more you imagine it, the more you feel it, the more you imagine it. Do you know what you're literally doing? Of course you do, because I tell you every day. You are literally creating a pathway between the imaginary thing and the material thing. Literally, that's what you're doing. They're called neurological pathways. And every time we imagine, that is what we're doing, building a pathway between the imaginary and the material. We do it all the time. If you do any kind of drawing, one of my coworkers at my nighttime job, she's so young, She just barely 18. But she draws. She doodles. And her artwork is rather lovely, Rather lovely. And the other day she said to me, well, because I said, well, why don't you draw? Because somebody came through the till and there was this artwork on the beer can. Holy cow, I've never seen such incredible artwork. The artistry was phenomenal. I said, wow, if I really enjoyed beer, I'd drink it just because the design on the can was awesome. Right? And she said to me, yeah, but I don't really want to draw like that. I said, you don't have to draw like them, just draw deliberately. She goes, well, I'm just too lazy. And I said to her, laziness is another word for fear. Oh, we're going to touch on it today. We say, because my son says it to me too. He says, Ma, I'm just lazy. I said, you're not lazy. You see, what happens is you have not taken the time to examine why you want to use the word lazy. You see, we think because we don't act that, quote unquote, we are lazy. The house is a mess. The car is a mess. Oh, I'm just lazy. No, you're not lazy. There's a reason why. So I said to her, well, why wouldn't you? She goes, well, because I really want to act. And I started to do it on TikTok, but, I showed it to such and they laughed at me. And so I stopped and I looked at her. And I just blinked. And I said, lazy, are you? I said, now do you understand why you're quote unquote lazy? Because you're afraid of being laughed at. You won't do it anymore. You see, we throw around these words like they're confetti. Sprinkle, sprinkle. We throw them around like they're confetti. Oh, you're just lazy. No, you're not lazy. Examine why you're not moving, and you will see the real reason. But because it is easy to say, oh my God, I'm so lazy, because it is easy to say it unwittingly, we bring about more things, more experiences that do what? Show us our quote unquote laziness. As within, so without. Oh, I'm just lazy. And so you begin to see the evidence of your laziness. All the while masking the real reason. You see, laziness is the judgment. Because that's what I told my son. I said, why do you think you're lazy? He goes, Ma, because I don't help. I don't care to help. I don't want to. Why not? Because I just don't want to. I said, why not? I'd rather not help, Mother. Why not? Because I feel like I'm not doing it right. And then I asked the question, so are you lazy or are you just afraid of making a mistake? So today, my beautiful friends, as we go out into this world, examine yourself without judgment. Naturally, that is how we live by way of principle. We constantly seek to comprehend every single day. We do. But you see, Brooks and Dunn comes to mind. I'm in a hurry to get things done. Rushing, and that's no fun. That's what we do. We feel like we're always in a hurry. If you feel like you're always in a hurry and you're rushing, well then, deliberately start to move slower. Because first, when you realize that you feel like you're rushing, mentally you have acknowledged the problem. Oh my God, I'm just rushing all the time. Mentally, you have acknowledged it. Now, that is always step one. Step two, what would you be doing if you weren't so rushed? How would you feel if you weren't so rushed? Now you begin to imagine. Oh. Because what are you doing when you're rushed? You're looking at all the things you've got to get done. Hmm? You're looking at all the things you've got to get done. And where are you going through those things? Your mind's eye and your imagination. So then, you would begin to now experience in imagination what you would be doing if you were not rushed. And as soon as you begin to imagine what it would feel like for you, what would you be doing? You begin to imagine what you would be doing. You're not watching yourself like on a movie screen. You're the one actually rehearsing what you would be doing if you weren't rushed. You're practicing in your mind's eye what you would be doing if you were not rushed. Let me tell you what I'd be doing if I wasn't rushed. I'd be laying right in this bed and I would be reading. Doggone right. Because I do love to just lounge about. I really do enjoy that. The simple, simple things in life. So I know how that makes me feel. So do you. You know how it makes you feel when you begin to experience in imagination what you would be doing in reality if you were not rushed, if you were not depressed, if you were not anxious. Understand that when you do this, this is how the body can heal itself. You think it's magic? It is the principle of correspondence. It is the principle of correspondence. You see, when you look at it through the lens of traditional Chinese medicine, yeah, and you're dealing with the anxiety and the depressions and the whatevers, the pain, every organ in the body has a corresponding, hello, you hear the word, a corresponding emotion. And when something is excessive, it depletes the organ. It depletes the organ's function. Spleen, its job is to make blood. In the West, we say it stores. But in order to store it, it must make it. Where does it get it from? It makes it. So spleen makes blood naturally, normally. Deliberately, it makes it. But when you begin to worry, fret, ruminate, reminisce, commiserate in excess, you know, too much, you impair the function of blood making. And when you impair the function of blood making, you, of course, impair means to slow down, yes? So when you slow it down, then there's not enough blood. So if there's not going to be enough blood, why would it not be enough? Because when you slow it down, it becomes stagnant. And when it becomes stagnant, you can't make more because it's not moving enough to make more. And so if it's not moving enough to make more, it begins to have a backflow because everything must move. The principle of vibration, yes, number 3. So now there's not enough blood to help with the menses. And because it is stagnant, menses are painful. Hello. And because they're painful, there's not enough to go up to the heart. The heart houses the mind. If there's not enough to go up to the heart to house the mind, oh, you get a little jittery. You get a little anxious. And then anxiety is one side, depression is on the other. They're the same. Polarity, remember this. They're just different stages of the same imbalance. And the way the body heals itself is if you start now to ease off of the excessive behavior, the excessive mood, the excessive thinking. The spleen will begin to relax. You see, because you think that tension doesn't show up in the body. Mental tension has to show up in the body. As within, so without. As above, so below. So if you are tense, your organs are tense, your cells are tense, your DNA is tense. But when you change your mood to one of relaxation and you continually use that mood of relaxation, now all the organs begin to do what they would do naturally without being impaired, thereby reversing what the problem was. Because the body always has to show the evidence, as within, so without. So you see, that is the explanation of how we can heal ourselves. It is not magic by which we heal ourselves. but it is by mood that we persistently occupy that either heals. Hi, handsome. It is either the the mood that we persistently do that heals or sickens us. So the same way in is the same way out. The mood that we occupy. And that, my friends, when my baby says, I'm singing, Mama, that's my time to wrap it up. So let's welcome everyone that's here today. In these YouTube streets, we got Sugar Visions and we got Melly Mel. Hey, girl. Twitter is bumping today. And oh, look, Twitter. The mic is open today, Twitter. Yesterday's mic was not open. Oh my God. I don't even know how that happened. But you know what? It is what it was. But I see you, Danny. I see you. Welcome. And thank you for being here. Who's on fan base? Flo Smiles. I see you. With your omnipresent self. Sir Real. I see you. Hello, Michael. And my sweet KZ. I see you. Listen, thank you all for being here today. I appreciate your time. Because like I said, you could be anywhere. Because listen, it is the crack of dawn. Clearly, it is the crack of dawn because somebody is hollering in the house. It's crack of dawn. But you're here. So when you hear the chime this morning, because you got chime and chicken. Well, no, the actual word, the actual name for it is cock and chime. Don't you come for me, boy. When you hear the chime this morning, recognize what you are doing and know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you will always be successful. Whichever way you choose to go, you will be successful. So you don't have to hope. You don't have to dance naked in the moonlight. You just need to know that as within, so without. So what do I have within? Listen, if you have that gas in your belly within, we know what's coming on the outside. But it is the same with your mood. Don't get it twisted. It is with everything by way. That is how we live. I'm coming, honey. I'm going to play the chime. Relax. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Much love to each and every one of you. And you know I'll see you on Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube. Yeah, child, you got to get out from under the couch. You know I'll see you here Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Fanbase, and Twitter. As always, Fanbase, we hang out for a couple more minutes. And then your girl feeds them their chickens and gets ready for work. Work, work, work. You know what? I do love you. I do love you genuinely. Enjoy this beautiful weekend. Now, allegedly, it's going to be hot outside. So you know what your girl will be doing on Saturday before I go to work? Starting my sourdough. Yes, because I'm all out of bread. And then I got to go pick up some pallets. Because I'm going to lay out the back garden. Hello? Yeah. So you know how it is on this weekend. I'll be busy, but the chickens will be in the yard with me. You know, under the protection of the gazebo, mind you. And I'll be working. It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. You know what? Go and enjoy the weekend, my friends. Enjoy the weekend and know that I love and appreciate you. Peace out. Mwah. Let me upload to Spotify. Peace.